God kept his promise to Abraham and Sarah. At the exact time God had said, Sarah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. Abraham named the child Isaac, just as God had told him. When Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him.
Ho, ho, ho!
Sarah rejoiced, saying that God had brought her laughter and that everyone who heard about it would laugh with her, and she wondered who would have believed she would nurse a child in her old age. Isaac grew, and when he was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son born to Abraham through Hagar, mocking.
Ho, ho, ho!
She told Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away, saying that the son of the slave woman should not share in the inheritance with Isaac. This troubled Abraham because Ishmael was also his son. But God told Abraham not to be distressed.
Ho, ho, ho!
God assured him that it was through Isaac that Abraham's descendants would be counted, yet he would also make a nation out of Ishmael because he was Abraham's offspring. Early the next morning, Abraham gave Hagar food and water and sent her away with Ishmael. She wandered in the desert until the water was gone. Unable to bear seeing her son die, she moved him under a bush and wept at a distance.
Ho, ho, ho!
But God heard the boy crying, and an angel of God called to Hagar, telling her not to be afraid, for God had heard him. She was told to lift him up and take him by the hand, because God would make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water.
Ho, ho, ho!
She filled the skin and gave Ishmael a drink. God was with the boy as he grew. He lived in the wilderness and became an archer. Some time later, God tested Abraham. God called his name, and Abraham answered, "Here I am." God told him to take Isaac, his only son whom he loved, and go to the region of Moriah to offer him there as a burnt offering on a mountain God would show him.
Ho, ho, ho!
Early the next morning, Abraham prepared the wood, took 2 servants and Isaac with him, and set out for the place God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham saw the place from a distance. He told his servants to stay behind while he and Isaac went up to worship, saying that they would return. Abraham placed the wood for the offering on Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife.
Ho, ho, ho!
As they walked together, Isaac asked where the lamb for the offering was. Abraham answered that God would provide the lamb. When they reached the place God chose, Abraham built an altar, arranged the wood, bound Isaac, and laid him on the altar. He reached out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. But the angel of the Lord called out from heaven, saying, "Abraham, Abraham."
Ho, ho, ho!
He replied, "Here I am." The angel told him not to lay a hand on the boy, for now God knew that Abraham feared him because he had not withheld even his son. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. He took the ram and offered it instead of his son. Abraham named that place "The Lord will provide," and it became known that on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided.
Ho, ho, ho!
The angel of the Lord called to Abraham a 2nd time, declaring that because Abraham had obeyed and had not withheld his son, God swore by himself to bless Abraham, multiply his descendants like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore, and that through his offspring all nations of the earth would be blessed.
Ho, ho, ho!
Afterward, Abraham returned to his servants, and they went back to Beersheba, where he stayed. When Sarah died, Abraham was old and blessed in all things. He wanted Isaac to have a wife, but not from the Canaanites where they lived. So Abraham called his oldest and most trusted servant, and made him promise to go to Abraham's homeland and find a wife for Isaac from among his relatives.
Ho, ho, ho!
The servant asked what to do if the woman refused to come back with him. Should he take Isaac there? But Abraham said Isaac must not go back because God had brought him to this land and would send his angel ahead to guide the servant. If the woman refused, the servant would be free from the oath. The servant took 10 camels and gifts and traveled to the region of Nar.
Ho, ho, ho!
Arriving at a well in the evening, when women came out to draw water, he prayed that God would show kindness to Abraham. He asked that the right woman would be the one who offered him a drink and also offered to water his camels. Before he finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was a relative of Abraham.
Ho, ho, ho!
The servant ran to her and asked for a drink. She gave him water willingly, and then offered to draw water for all his camels. As well, the servant watched silently, seeing that God had answered his prayer. When she finished, he gave her jewelry and asked whose daughter she was and if there was room to stay at her father's house.
Ho, ho, ho!
She answered that she was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah and Nahor, and that there was plenty of space for lodging. The servant bowed and worshipped God for guiding him directly to Abraham's family. Rebekah ran home and told her family. Her brother Laban came out to meet the servant, welcomed him, and brought him into the house.
Ho, ho, ho!
After the camels were cared for and the servant was offered food, he refused to eat until he explained his mission. He told them about Abraham, about his oath, and the prayer at the well. And he explained how God had led him straight to Rebekah. Laban and Bethuel agreed that the matter was from the Lord, and that Rebekah should go.
Ho, ho, ho!
The next morning, the family asked that she stay for a few days, but the servant insisted on leaving immediately. They called Rebekah and asked if she would go, and she agreed. Rebekah left with her nurse and Abraham's servant. When they approached, Isaac was in the field. Rebekah saw him and asked who he was. When she learned it was Isaac, she covered herself with a veil.
Ho, ho, ho!
The servant told Isaac everything that had happened. Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, married her, and loved her. And through her, he was comforted after his mother's death.
Ho, ho, ho!
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more video.
Ho, ho, ho!